Hey guys, I know we're talking about assessment, but the only way we can truly talk about assessment is actually looking at the purpose of assessment. What I tell all my faculty is that we're going to make sure that at the end, our students know what they're supposed to know. And we're very blessed in emergency management, fire protection technology, and public safety administration that we have published learning course objectives, which I can tie back to my program objectives. So for me to do assessment, I always tie it back to the course, the learning objective to the course to the program's objectives. So I'm always measuring 2 to 3 different courses on every program objective I have. So really quickly, I want to discuss building smarter courses with you because this is how I look at doing assessment. I set my students up for success because I guarantee that when we create stuff, we always use the learning objectives. And you're going to find out in a second that that's what we look at primarily because that's what they're going to be judged on. That's what we're judged on. Our design philosophy and any course we build, learning drives everything. We're a learning organization, and every week you come to me, I'll show you something new we've learned. Our objectives come first. At the end, we've got to make sure that they understand the skills and the ability to think because content changes. With AI, I'm able to actually move around articles as I see fit. I'm actually able to add huge events that happen. When Hurricane Helene hit, 2 days later in my courses, we had information about Helene and how it was going to impact the state of North Carolina. We have accessory measuring mastery, not memory. We want to make sure that they understand the course material, but understanding over time things change. Some of the very first calculations I learned in the fire service have changed dramatically in the last few years. The science of fire investigation, for example, what we were taught 20 years ago, now has been determined to actually not be accurate. So we want them to understand content of the material, but also understand that things can change. So we're wanting them to have the skill set. Okay. Our content delivery emphasizes engagement and relevance. We make sure that every assignment interacts with our material, which our material was built from the learning objectives. AI assists, but doesn't replace instructor judgment. You're going to say that doesn't fit there. Yes, it does. Because guess what? AI is a huge tool we use to help us in assessment. And I'll show you in a few slides how we actually do that. Now, start with the end in mind. We actually look at our student outcomes, how we're going to measure them, and practical applications. What do I want that student to have the day they walk out of my program? When they walk across the stage, what do they got to have? How do I get them to that point? So we identify our outcomes. We look at what can I actually put down and say, yes, I can prove that they actually can do these skills or have this knowledge. And I look for practical applications. Theoretical knowledge is great, but in our field, practical beats it every day of the week. Okay, learning objectives drive this course. When we're looking at this really quickly, we have for EPT 130 on the side, a few of their learning objectives. And then over here on the right-hand side, what we've done in our course design is we've actually taken those learning objectives, broke them into modules, and then broke them down again. So what you can look at very quickly is a very student-friendly version on the right-hand side. You know, they're going to be able to, what we want to do is to think critically about weather hazards and how we prepare for them. We actually have some real-world application for them. We have the PowerPoints, we have 2 articles, we have a discussion board, should the citizens buy flood insurance, and they have a short test. Okay. And at the end, we break it down again to where by the end of the module, what does that student understand? And you've got to understand, we're using a concept of microeducation. Every week, we're moving the ball just a little bit so that we do not overwhelm them. Okay. And we're going to dig more into that by aligning assessment with objectives. Again, since our course is built totally off of our learning objectives, it becomes a lot easier. Okay. Because once we see our learning objectives, we know what skills those students have to be successful in that module. So we do a weekly knowledge check with them. Low stakes is formal. It's very simplistic. We have a practical assignment every week. It's real world applications. In another class, FIP 140, 136, for example, they physically go out with a fire inspector and actually do 2 or 3 inspections. And they actually practice using the paperwork. They actually understand how it goes. And at the end, the fire inspector grades them on what they saw, and then they come back to me, and then I grade the whole report they've written and give them and give them a feedback loop of, hey, this is some things you might want to look at next time. We have discussions every week. We have a final thoughts discussion board in most of our classes, which is, what did you already know? What did you learn that actually agreed with that? And then what challenged you? What did you learn that actually disagrees with what you already know? Okay. And in every course, we have a major final project. And this one right here, they're doing a mitigation preparedness plan for a real NC community. Right now, 5,000 acres are burning in Polk County. Right now in this course, I'm probably getting 6 to 7 wildfire mitigation plans. So they're able to actually use this course to build the plans they're going to use the rest of their careers. Every course is built this way that at the end, there's a major project that proves mastery of that particular area. Okay, now let's get back real quickly to the micro ed concept. How does this fit into assessment? It makes assessment for me easier. It's called bite-sized learning. It has 2 readings, 1 PowerPoint, sometimes 2 PowerPoints, a quiz, and 1 assignment. Every week, it flows the exact same way. Everything builds upon each other. It's focused on the weekly outcomes, and it reduces what we call cognitive overload. In other words, I know I'm only testing in this particular area, and the students don't have to worry about what happened last week. They're only in this one particular area, building up knowledge in that particular spot. Okay. Again, something worth discussing really quickly is using AI to evaluate student work. We're discussing assessment real quick. How can you assess students fairly? Sometimes we all feel like we have favorites. We have students we really enjoy working with, we have students we don't enjoy working with. And we also have to realize that we need to have something consistent, because if we're measuring a program and we're measuring it through different generations of a class, are we measuring consistently? The biggest thing is that we need to make sure we're measuring consistently so we know if we're getting better or getting worse. That's why I always hate it when people say, well, I'm going to use chapter 3, test 1 for a class. I was like, well, chapter 3, test 1, does it show, how does it tie back to the learning objectives? Well, so the author wrote it. So surely, since we use that book, that has to be tied to us. I was like, that doesn't work that way. So we use a generalized test for most of them and a major project. What we use right now to make this consistent, we use AI-assisted rubric analysis structure and topic coverage. In other words, they're looking for the keywords. Hey, did they mention the words they should have been using? Did they use the words correctly? Also, it ensures objective alignment. Hey, did they actually cover the topic they were supposed to? Were they on topic? Tracks peer responses a little bit. But the biggest thing I found so far using this is its consistency. Every student will get a great feedback result from me. I'm physically right now doing the next generation of thing. I'm using ChatGPT to do my assessments inside of my individual written assignments. So what we're doing is I'm physically loading their paper into ChatGPT along with my rubric, and I'm telling it to speak in my voice. Okay. It checks the assignment with the rubric. It really reframes the feedback into coachable language. It makes sure that they're getting great feedback. It identifies those areas of misunderstanding for targeting help. Okay. And instructor reviews all AI generated feedback. I'm not letting AI grade my stuff. I'm letting it get a first view of it. And the feedback it's providing is excellent and it's consistent, and it takes human emotion out of it. So when a student gets a 47, for example, you can go back and say, okay, why did they get a 47? I can look really quickly and say, okay, here's what you did well. Here's where we got to dig a little deep. We got to do a little better here. Okay. And it breaks it fairly down. And what I love about it is that it compliments some of me, like, hey, you did a great job, or hey, this is what you got to work on. And then it goes into what we got to fix. It gives them the number. And then in the end, it wraps around and says, hey, you did a really good job. I've enjoyed it. It's made my grading more consistent, and I've only disagreed with it twice so far. So I've actually enjoyed using it. And guess how long it takes for it to grade a huge assignment? About 30 seconds. I can then go back, spot check the assignment versus the written feedback, and it allows me to actually get back to students quicker. It allows me to have here's something even cooler, is in discussion boards. This is allowing me to go in and give even more depth. So in other words, where you might have time to write 2 or 3 paragraphs, I might write 7 or 8 with some key points to each student and actually be able to give them feedback up to a class of 30 and still be done within an hour, hour and a half. It saves time and it makes it more consistent. Okay. Right now, talking about integrity a little bit, some of the things that I'm trying to do with it is for written assignments for my assessments. I'm looking at the originality, the depth of the papers they're doing. Actually, right now, my AI for chat does not pick up AI. So you have to use something like Turnitin to actually check that. And you train students on ethical AI practices. The very first thing I do is I admit your content was made by AI. Your test was generated by AI. And then I had to sit down and spend hours making sure the content was correct. So it is a nice way to do this. And it's a different way to kind of look at our job. The benefits of our approach really quickly. Every week, they get clear expectations and everything's aligned. I've not had a student in the last year ask me, why is that assignment in this class? Before then, I had people ask all the time, well, this assignment doesn't match up exactly. Now it goes into, yes, this assignment matches up. It makes sense. It's consistent. It actually gives them real world skill development, and it provides efficient and fair grading with AI support. It provides a great grade. It provides excellent feedback. And in the end, our goal is to make sure our students are more successful. I know it's a little bit of a different way. This is probably not exactly what Nyman asked me to create, but I kind of enjoyed it. So here's my final thoughts. We engineer learning experiences with precision. In other words, we're still the captain. We actually still steer the ship, drive the engine, whatever you want to call it. But it's our job to make sure that our programs are the best they can be. You know, we look back at our OERs, but truthfully, it's just looking back at our program objectives, which go back to our learning objectives from our courses, which now go back to our module objectives, which go back to our assignments. We've just streamlined it. We've made sure that it's a consistent experience for our students. Our learning objectives guide every decision. We're getting ready to do a rewrite on our learning objectives for our programs. I think that's due. I don't know how some programs that don't have official learning objectives get everything done. This also allowed me to create content versions of every class because we had learning objectives already built. AI enhances, not replaces the instructor's role. It doesn't replace us. In other words, it makes our work better. It gives us just a few hours to actually be able to spend more time with our students. And we prepare professionals, not just informed students. What I love about doing a great assessment is at the end, they have the skills. When I was an engineer teaching my first group of firefighters, I had 10 firefighters. The happiest moment for me was when I actually got to sit back at a house fire and watch my crew go in and work, and without me, successfully achieve everything they're supposed to. In the end, we're only judged by what we've created. It doesn't matter what tool we're using. If we're using the OERs, if you're using any other name for it, it's just an assessment. For me, using reverse engineering my courses and guaranteeing that the students are assessed for the skills they need, it's been very successful. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and hopefully this meets what everybody was looking for. Have a great day, guys.